This Let's Edit with Media Composer tutorial is brought to you by VideoGuys.com, the leading reseller of video editing and production equipment for more than 25 years. And by Boris Effects, a leading developer of visual effects, titling, video editing, and workflow tools and plugins for broadcast, post-production, and film professionals. And by Rampant Design Tools, creators of QuickTime-based style effects for video and designed to significantly enhance content for editors, visual effects artists, and motion graphic designers. Hey everyone, Kevin P McAuliffe here, and I am back again with another Let's Edit with Avid Media Composer tutorial. And in this lesson, I want to go over a question that was sent to me from a viewer for a problem that he is having. He says, "Hi Kevin, I'm running Media Composer 845 and I'm in the process of finishing a project and decided to use the media tool to delete everything I no longer need to free up some space. But I must have made the wrong selection in what items to show through the media tool, because after doing the select media relatives for various sequence versions I had and then using reverse selection, I then deleted all, and to my unpleasant surprise, all of the transcoded full clip files are now offline, gone, and deleted. Thankfully, my final sequence version that was linked back to the camera files was still intact, but I wanted to get my editing sequence working that contained clips using the transcoded master files, so I thought I would just retrieve those MXF files from my Mac Time Machine backup and paste them back into the Avid Media Files folder. After the files were copied back into the Avid Media Files folder, I opened Media Composer and the files did show up. They were back online in the editing sequence, but now Media Composer gave me this error when I hit play, and at first it froze for a few seconds, then a box popped up and said, "Exemption, streaming play consumer, execute past timeout." Even though I tried playing my final camera linked file sequence and my final mixdown sequence, which are both working prior to copying these files back, all the sequences now give me the same playback error, even though everything shows up as being online. What do I do? Any chance you can advise? Thanks in advance. Sincerely, Stefan. Well, Stefan, hopefully in this lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about the problem that you're having. I don't know if I'm going to be able to have a specific answer to your question. I can give you a few ideas of what you can do to hopefully remedy this situation, but we're going to talk about a bigger overall issue, which is how should you take media that might not necessarily be part of the current project you're working on and add it to the project, so this way if there's issues, you can get rid of it easily enough so that you can get yourself back up and running in no time flat. Now, before we go on, I want to remind you that these tutorials are designed to get in and take a very in-depth look at very specific aspects of editing inside of Avid Media Composer. But sometimes you just need to get the information and get yourself up and running lightning fast. Well, if that's the case, head on over and check out my Mac Pro video training series on Media Composer, where lesson 1 will get you up and running in Media Composer in about an hour. Okay, now before we get in and I talk a little bit about what the best way in a situation like this is to bring that media back and incorporate it into your project so that if you have an issue like this, you can quickly remove it, I just want to give Stefan a few possible ideas, and obviously for everybody else that's watching, as to what the problem might be. Now, if you actually look up this error on Google, the first thing you're told is that you might have corrupt settings. I mean, to be honest, I don't think this is a corrupt settings issue. I think this is a corrupt piece of media issue. And I think that's what's causing the problem. Now, he did mention that once he copied everything back, everything came back online. Now, the issue is that it's going to be hard to figure out which piece of media is corrupt. Now, back in the old days, once a database was made, if there was a corrupt piece of media, you could easily go through your media files folder and look for any file that had a plus at the start of it. In most cases, any file that had a plus at the start of it was a corrupt file, and you could delete that, rebuild the database, and you'd be back up and running. Now, what would I suggest doing in this situation? Well, in this situation, what I would suggest doing is to go into the media tool, make sure you delete things correctly this time, select the sequences you want to keep, select media relatives, reverse selection, and blow all of that media right away again. Because chances are that corrupt piece of media is going to be in there, and you're going to get rid of it, and you'll be back to where you started with Media Composer playing properly. Now, what you could also attempt to do is attempt to upgrade to a newer version of Media Composer to see if that solves the problem. Let's put it this way. At this point, you're pretty much handcuffed with what you can do. So your options are get rid of everything that you just brought back, or attempt to upgrade and see if that solves your problem. To be honest, I think blowing the media away and then doing this whole process, as I'm going to show you right now, is probably the best way to do it. Okay, so let's Command and Tab into Avid Media Composer, obviously Alt and Tab for all my Windows friends out there. And what I have done is I'm going to sort of do a very rudimentary example of the situation that we're in right now. Now, what I've done is I have some clips in here that we're just going to say are my new clips, which would be the lighter blue, and my old clips, which are the purple clips. Now, what I've also done, just to make my life a lot easier, is that if I come into my drive and I come into my Avid Media Files folder, into MXF, into the one folder, you'll see that I've actually color-coded them so I can figure out which clip is which for the purposes of me showing this to you. We're going to assume that the red clips are the good clips, the clips that we're happy with, and the blue clips are the ones that we just unarchived and are giving us problems. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to stick them in the root of the Avid Media Files folder. Okay, let's just select them all. I'm just going to deselect the databases and the creating folder. We're just going to drag it into the root, and let's Command and Tab back into Media Composer. Okay, good. So all these clips have now appeared as offline. Of course, the clips that we had before are all good to go. I can just hit play on any one of them. And we're just going to assume that we got a sequence that I'm happy with, and we're all good to go. Okay, so now what do we do about bringing this media back? Well, as you've seen, the problem that we're going to run into if I just take all of these media clips and just take them and drag them and drop them into the number one folder is that as soon as I drop them in here, we're going to assume that there's thousands of them. They're just going to get lost in the mix, because what's important to keep in mind is that when they're brought back, the date modified on them, chances are not going to be today's date. They're going to be the date of the files when they were originally created. Now, if they happen to be today's date, that actually kind of makes life a lot easier. You can easily just go through and figure out what's what. But in most cases, that is not the case. So how are you going to go about getting this media back in so that you can work with it, but also being able to get rid of it if necessary? Well, this is a great trick for anybody that comes from the Unity or even the ISIS and Interplay workflows. They'll know this very well. The way that their workflow works is that when they're editing inside of their Avid Media Files folder, inside the MXF drive, or in the MXF folder, you're going to have multiple folders based on all of the different computers that are logged onto the system. And any media that's captured by that specific station is going to have a folder in here based on who captured, imported, or transcoded the media. So you're not limited to just having a folder called, appropriately enough, number one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into Media Composer just to show you that these clips are offline, and I'm going to create another folder inside of my MXF Media Files folder called, appropriately enough, 2. Fairly straightforward. But what's very cool about this is that what I can now do is take all of this media. Again, this could have been unarchived from, Mac Time Machine. It could be unarchived from another drive. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to drag it and drop it into folder number 2. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that all of the media that's in folder number 1 I know are associated with those good sequences, the sequence that I'm working with right now, and anything that's in number 2 is something that I've brought back. So if I run into an issue as soon as I get back into Media Composer, I can simply come back and blow away folder number 2 to get things back to where we were. Now, of course, that does beg the question, Kev, what's going to happen when you go back into Media Composer? This is probably not going to relink, but watch this. As soon as I Command or Alt tab back into Media Composer is going to immediately rebuild the databases, and all of these clips are now back online. And of course, if at any time I run into an issue and this media somehow, something's in that folder that's corrupt and I can't figure out what it is and it's locked the whole system down, all I'm going to do is simply hide Media Composer. I'm going to come to the MXF folder, to that folder number 2. I'm simply going to delete it and come back into Media Composer. And now I'm just going to be left with those master files that I know are working flawlessly. Now, as we're wrapping up, I want to remind you that if you're looking for great deals on Avid Media Composer software licenses, subscriptions, and upgrades, use coupon code MC101 for 5% off any purchase at videoguys.com. MC101 is going to be a coupon code that you're going to love because the great team at Boris FX is offering a 10% discount on BCC10 AVX or multi-host licenses, full or upgrades, again using the coupon code MC101. And finally, Rampant Design Tools is offering 25% off any non-discounted product they offer in their library, again, you guessed it, by using coupon code MC101. And finally, don't forget that if you have any questions, you have any comments, or you have any tutorial requests, you can send them to me at kevinpmcauliffe@gmail.com. This has been Kevin P. McAuliffe. Thanks a lot for watching.